All right, everyone, it is 6 p.m., so we will go ahead and get started. Good evening. My name is Kyle Packer, and I'm a planner with the town of Oro Valley and the town's project manager reviewing the applicant's proposal. I'll also be facilitating tonight's meeting. Thank you for joining us tonight for a neighborhood meeting regarding the proposed residential site plan for land south of the West Tortolita Mountain Circle and North Rocky Highlands Drive intersection. I'll start by discussing the purpose and agenda for tonight's meeting. Town staff and the applicant are here to give you, the project's neighbors, an opportunity to share comments and have your questions answered directly regarding the proposed 7-lot single-family residential subdivision near Tortolita Mountain Circle and Rocky Highlands Drive, pictured here. First for tonight, I'll provide information on the public participation process and give a brief overview of the project. Next, the applicant's representative, Mr. Paul Oland, will provide a more detailed overview of the project. After Mr. Oland's presentation, it will be your turn. Please ask any questions you have for the applicant regarding their project and application. I'd like to emphasize that your feedback is critical to shaping the final proposal Town Council considers. As this is our first public meeting, your input here tonight is valuable for both staff and the applicant. Following your input, I'll provide more information about the next steps for this project, then conclude by sharing more about the upcoming opportunities for public participation. Our primary goal tonight is to hear from you while ensuring a fair and productive meeting. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and social distancing requirements, the town has transitioned to online public meetings to protect the health and safety of town residents while still providing ample opportunity to participate and stay involved. At this point, you may be familiar with online interactive Zoom meetings, but I'll provide more information about how Zoom works and how to participate shortly. If you have any trouble with Zoom tonight, you can call Michael Spaeth at any time during the meeting at 229-4812 to request assistance with Zoom. If you are calling in by phone, the passcode 714799 is provided on this slide and later in the presentation as well. Everyone's microphone other than the active speaker will be muted throughout the meeting tonight to ensure a smooth and efficient meeting. When the time comes for your input, I will turn on your microphone and, if you prefer, your camera when you raise your virtual hand. For those of you unfamiliar with Zoom, I will provide a how-to for raising your computer or telephone activated virtual hand immediately before your opportunity to provide input, to ensure a fair and focused meeting and ample opportunity to have your questions and comments heard and answered. Tonight's meeting is scheduled to go no later than 7:30 p.m. I'd like to note that this Zoom meeting video and the PowerPoint presentation will be posted on this project's webpage as soon as possible. We've found that Zoom may take a day or two to process the recording. However, we will post it immediately once we receive it. Comments will also be posted online and on the project webpage in a neighborhood meeting summary and forwarded to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council when they consider the application. So where are we in the process? For all residential site plan applications, the town requires applicants to reach out to the community at the front end of the process before formal applications are submitted. It is important to hear your comments and questions early and often. Your participation matters, and this case will be no different. Tonight is a fully interactive Zoom neighborhood meeting. Following tonight, town staff expect a formal submittal from the applicant. After staff review of the formal submittal for code conformance, the application is expected to move to the Planning and Zoning Commission unless significant input from the neighbors and residents deems a second neighborhood meeting necessary. There are additional opportunities for public input regardless of a second neighborhood meeting. Public input can be provided at a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting as well as Town Council meetings. And notice will be sent out in advance of all public meetings, including a second neighborhood meeting if it's deemed necessary tonight. Please help us spread the word about this proposal and upcoming public participation opportunities. Property owners near the site have been directly notified by mail, and furthermore, the site has been posted with yellow signs in multiple locations. If you weren't notified and wish to be in the future, please send us a request with your name and address to kpacker, KPACKER, @orovalleyaz.gov. A pre-application concept for the site has been provided, and you'll hear more about that directly from the property owner's representative, Mr. Paul Oland. I'd like to take a moment to orient everyone to the subject property. Outlined in yellow here, it is approximately 25 acres in size. The property is located south and southeast of the Rocky Highlands Drive and Tortolita Mountain Circle intersection and borders Pima County land. For context, this property was annexed into the town of Oro Valley in 2004 and is part of the Stone Canyon HOA via a private HOA agreement. A no access easement restricting these properties from accessing West Tortolita Mountain Circle was removed via a major plat amendment approved by Town Council in June of 2020. Much more recently, a stop work order was issued yesterday, and site visits are in progress to determine if there is a zoning or permitting violation, and if so, what fines and remedial action will be required on one of the parcels, the Northern Square parcel. The image on the left is indicative of existing easements with a grid orientation providing access to properties in the town beyond those specifically in the application. On the right is the applicant's proposal, which provides a curvilinear access that primarily serves the parcels in this residential site plan application. This site plan on the right shows 7 lots for single family homes, approximately 3.3 to 3.9 acres in size. 4 lots are on the northwestern portion of the properties, with the remaining 3 located on the southeast portion. It is important to establish that this request is to develop private property. All property owners have the right to request review of their development proposal. When and if the application is found to be code compliant, the town must ultimately approve the request. Regarding existing zoning, these parcels, while a part of the Stone Canyon HOA, are not within the Rancho Vistoso planned area development. They are zoned R1-144, meaning they have 18-foot building height limitations, setbacks of 50 feet from the front of a lot, 20 feet from the side of a lot, and 50 feet from the rear of a lot. Only uses permitted within R1-144 zoning will be allowed. Additionally, all lot sizes must be a minimum of 144,000 square feet. In addition, lots within the southeast portion will be affected by the Airport Environs Zone, an overlay district created to protect the health, safety, and welfare of persons and property in the vicinity of the La Cholla Air Park. Again, I want to iterate that we are very early in the process and that this is only the first step in an intensive public outreach process. This is an opportunity to learn more about the proposal, staff included, so that your questions and concerns can be addressed as a part of a formal submittal. With that in mind, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Paul Oland with Paradigm Land Design, who is representing the property owner, to provide more detail regarding their proposal and explain the what and why of their application. Mr. Oland, whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you, Mr. Packer. Is it possible to share my screen?
Yes.
All right, excellent. I will do that as soon as you give me permission.
All right. Mr. Spaeth, can we give him the permission to share screen?
Mr. Packer, I do not have that option. Are you able to pull up his video?
That's, it's all right. If you just go back to the site plan that you had, I can talk off of that one. That's fine.
All right. Also, I've made you a co-host, so you may be able to screen share now if you'd like to check.
Yes. Got it. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. And you can see the site plan on my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Oland. I'm with Paradigm Land Design, as Mr. Packer indicated. I'm here just representing the property owner. They own and control all 25 of these acres. As Mr. Packer mentioned, this is a part of what has historically been called Stone Canyon Phase 9. It was actually part of some of the original holdings of the Stone Canyon group. The northern 10-acre square that Mr. Packer referenced there with the stop work order, I learned about that today as well. That square, actually that whole rectangle, the 15-acre rectangle, has historically been used as a maintenance and materials yard associated with the golf course. That activity will be ending though. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight. We're proposing to develop under the existing zoning. We're not proposing a rezoning. We're proposing to develop under the existing general plan. We're not proposing an amendment to that either. This is under that existing R1144 zoning as was mentioned. 7 large lots with a 3.3 acre minimum here for custom homes that will be part of the Stone Canyon community. The curvilinear street design that was mentioned is shown on the screen here. It will follow the same design standards as the other local streets within Stone Canyon with the same pavement width, those nice ribbon curbs on either side. And that will, so it'll match in perfectly, come straight down off of Rocky Highlands Drive and provide access to these 7 lots, as well as the lots to the south, which currently benefit from an existing access easement that was actually on one of Mr. Packer's slides there. You can see it lightly on the screen. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but it comes straight down there from Rocky Highlands Drive, straight over, and then straight down along the western edge of this property and continues down. It does provide access to I think 10 or 15 acres down there, which is 4 lots. We will be reconfiguring the existing easement within the northern rectangle there. So we'll be abandoning that square shape and replacing it with this nicer curvilinear road. And then from there south, we'll be preserving, not touching that existing easement. So the parcels that have access today will continue to have access with this new design, but the northern part will be a nicer, more aesthetic design as well. The custom homes that will be in here will be meeting the aesthetic principles in the Stone Canyon design standards. And the owner will be meeting with the board to agree on some home designs in the near future. They will be members of the Stone Canyon Club per the 3rd Amendment to that agreement. They'll either be golf or sports members, just like other custom home lots within Stone Canyon. And lastly, we are aware from previous work about the sensitivity surrounding the La Cholla Air Park compatible use zone, which is shown here in white dashed lines here. So between these 2 white dashed lines is where that compatible use zone is. So I know there are height and reflectivity restrictions there, smoke, things like that. And so we figured the easiest thing to do was just stay out of that. So that's what we're doing. What we've done is configured that southern 10-acre square there in such a way that all 3 building pads for lots 5, 6, and 7 here will be outside of that compatible use zone. So we'll avoid potential conflict there. That's the long and short of the proposal. Again, those existing golf maintenance and material uses on that northern chunk will be those activities are ending, and we look forward to moving forward with adding these estate-sized lots here to the Stone Canyon inventory. Be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Can we know who the owner is?
Just one moment. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, I believe, if I can figure out where that button went. And we will get to that in just a second here. So as you mentioned, thank you, Mr. Olin, for all of your input there. Before we get started with questions, I'd like to explain how everyone can participate during this meeting. During the question and comment period, if you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand function in Zoom. There are 2 ways to do this. For those of you who are calling in by phone, you'll press *9 to raise your hand. Again, if you are calling in by phone and wish to participate, please use the passcode 714799 shown on the bottom right of the slide. For those of you who are participating on any platform that uses the Zoom app or website, you'll need to find the participants icon at either the top or bottom of your screen, depending on your device. Click on participants, and this will open a dialog box where you will see an option to raise your hand as shown on the right of this slide. Alternatively, if you're using an iPad or tablet, you may need to click the 3 dots that say more as shown on this screen in order to get to the option to raise your hand. Raised hands will be moved to the top of the list in the order in which they were raised. I will then announce your name and unmute you so you can speak and also turn on your video. When it is your turn, please make sure you are not muted on your personal device and that your video is not turned off on your personal device if you'd like to use it by using the microphone and video icons shown on this slide. When I announce who is up to speak, I will also announce the next person whose turn it will be so that that person is prepared. Once you have asked your question or made a comment, I will remute you to allow the speaker to provide an answer. Once the answer has been provided, I will unmute you again to provide a follow-up remark or question before moving on to the next participant. If you have any technical issues with Zoom or have further questions, please contact Michael Spaeth at 229-4812 to seek assistance. We're going to do our best to get through everyone's questions and comments. Please keep your input to no longer than 3 minutes out of fairness to all participants who wish to be heard. I will respectfully remind folks of this guideline as needed. My aim is to keep things moving along in a fair and efficient manner. Again, the goal of this meeting is to provide a productive conversation about the project and constructive feedback and questions. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with your questions and comments. Please bear with me as it may take a moment to unmute folks and move between our speakers. Looks like our first speaker will be Steve Roach, and on deck after them is John. Again, I will be unmuting the speakers, but please make sure you are also not muted on your end. All right, Steve, I believe you're unmuted. Would you like your video on?
Yes, please. Hi,
Alrighty.
thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, Paul, I think you said that there's going to be the concept is to have a separate gate to this new area. Is that correct?
No, sir. No, it'll tie into Tortolina Mountain Circle right there at the north end where the existing Rocky Highlands Drive comes in.
Oh, excellent. That.
Yeah.
Nope. Steve, it looks like you might have cut out. Your speaker seems to be muted at the moment. Steve, I'm not too sure. If you'd like to try asking your question again, you appear to be muted.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm showing video on and microphone on. What I just heard Paul say is there's not going to be a separate gate to this new area. And so therefore, I do not have any concerns.
Okay, I'll go ahead and lower your hand. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Alrighty, John is about to speak, and next it looks like it is, and I apologize if I say this wrong, Christian is on deck to speak. John, would you like your video on?
Sure, you can turn it on.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for giving me a chance to speak. My name is John Hutchins, and I live right across the street from this property. So let me fill you in a little bit quickly on what the status of this is and my concerns. The current property owner, for those who don't know, is the Stone Canyon Golf LLC, who also operates a golf course here and develops other properties here. For the past year, they've allowed two private companies, Stonescapes and Macron, to operate an illegal landfill, a rock quarry, construction materials processing facility on this property, which is surrounded on all sides by homes. The aerial photos that Paul provided are dated and don't show the full extent of this illegal activity. As was mentioned earlier, the zoning for this is purely residential, like just about every home in Oro Valley, and any type of industrial commercial operations is forbidden in residential areas. Yet the landowners have allowed this to happen over the last year. I filed a complaint against this activity back in October, and it took just until yesterday for a cease and desist order to be issued by the town against the private company running this operation, Macron, to have them stop doing the excavation, bringing in heavy trucks with materials, sorting it, and dragging it out. I have no problem with the development in the way that Paul described. It would be a great replacement for the eyesore this property owner has created. My concern is whether we can trust this property owner to follow the rules and the regulations of Oro Valley, and specifically the HOA, CCNRs related to occupancy and uses permits in our community, which they have not. And as well as how does Oro Valley manage this organization, given that they've willfully disregarded zoning, and what will allow them to suddenly become a law-abiding citizen and a good neighbor that respects the homeowners that surround their property. It's going to be a big construction project. They've got a significant amount of cleanup that they need to do on the existing site. There's mounds of dirt and rocks and construction materials and trash heaps that go over the entire northern section of this property. It will take massive amounts of cleanup before they can even get to the point of doing construction. So that's my question, Paul. I don't know if you have anything you can offer, or if Kyle, you have anything to offer on how this development is going to be safely and more responsibly managed than what they've done over the past year.
Mr. Packer, you want me to take a stab at that?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So yeah, Mr. Hutchins, I think I mentioned that I recently became aware of the issue that you're describing. I know that Oro Valley has issued the the stop work order there, and I believe that's been complied with. Historically, this site dating back 2 decades has been used by the Stone Canyon Golf Course for their maintenance and materials storage. It's undergone several changes of ownership, I know, and I have not tracked it, obviously, to know exactly what activities have been going on. But I think it's fairly safe to say that the current owner acquired it, saw the activity that was ongoing there at the time, and I'm guessing probably figured that was allowed. I am speculating there, but I think the point is, and you alluded to it, that the alternative here is what's proposed, and that is preferable. They of course will be doing whatever land prep they need to get this ready for building the new road. Obviously installing underground utilities and things like that, and generally tidying up the land so that the custom homes that will be built here will not be within a moonscape. They're going to need to clean it up a little bit. It's like I said, it's been used for decades, for this sort of purpose that doesn't make for a nice, pretty area for custom homes. So they're obviously going to clean it up. And from an assurance standpoint, going through the platting process in Oro Valley, there'll have to be detailed site plans done by a civil engineer, landscape architect, drainage engineer, all that. Those will be reviewed and approved by Oro Valley, and those will be what their building permits are based on. And Oro Valley has inspectors that go out during construction to make sure that what gets built is in accordance with what's been approved, and what's being proposed is what I've shown. So henceforth, moving forward, the design that I've shown on the screen there is what'll get built, and that's what Oro Valley will be looking at to get built. So I don't know if that answers your question. I know there's a concern there and some history that I can't speak to, but I know that there is precedent for what was happening there, and moving forward, it'll be much more tightly looked at by everybody, including the town.
Let me just to clarify your point, Paul. Historically, it was used as a maintenance yard for the golf course, which is permitted under R1 144 golf course usage. So it was storing materials, storing plant materials. The same owners who own this property just within the last year switched that to an illegal landfill, industrial use, heavy equipment machinery operation, commercial operation by other companies that are not the landowner. So this is my concern, is that the landowner isn't going after historical precedents. The landowner changed the usage of this property to something that is clearly in violation of a residential zone, and clearly outside any common sense, you would put such a large industrial operation across the street from homes. Any of you on this phone call would be shocked if you had excavators and side dump trucks and rock sifters operating beginning at daylight every day. This is a new thing that's happened. This has nothing to do with what's happened over the past 20 years by the same landowner. So that's my concern, is that the landowner to date has shown a willful ignorance to violate zoning. So that's what I'm asking the trust to say, how are they going to develop this in the manner in which, Paul, you present very nicely, when they don't seem to care about zoning, HOA regulations, the health and safety of their neighbors?
John, I may be able to answer some of those concerns for you. Obviously, as we stated, a stop work order was issued yesterday, and site visits are currently in progress to determine the violation, if there is one, as well as what fines and remedial action will be required. And when we look at the application as it's been submitted tonight, the town requires regular inspections at multiple points in the building process in order to regulate all aspects of construction. So we'll be making sure, as this process and this project move forward, that everything will be code compliant with the town of Oro Valley.
Yeah, that would be my hope, Kyle. I would, as I said, the replacement of this eyesore is paramount for all of our neighbors. The replacement of this illegal activity is paramount for all of our neighbors. So if Oro Valley can manage it in a way that they haven't previously, that would work out well for all of us. So I don't think anybody's against development. Our concerns are, will this landowner act in good faith if this is allowed?
All right. Thank you very much, John. Do you have any further questions or comments?
That's it.
All righty. Go ahead and lower your hand. So Christian, I'm going to ask you to unmute, and if you would like your video on, go ahead and let me know. And then John Tay is on deck.
No need for the video. My question first was the ownership, but it's been already answered. Second is the property is into the La Choya Air Park. And I'm wondering, how will the access be barred, or how will the, property line be protected and secured?
Okay, Paul, would you like to answer that?
Sure. So I think to maybe rephrase the question to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, is since this will be accessing into Stone Canyon, how are we going to ensure that properties that are beyond this don't also gain access into Stone Canyon? Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So what we're doing is there's already a no access easement that goes along the entire edge of this property, and it actually goes further south along where that existing easement continues south. So legally there's no access there currently, and we're going to obviously maintain that no access easement, and to gain access into Stone Canyon, anyway, because they're private streets, Stone Canyon needs to grant that permission in the first place. So these parcels have been annexed in, but that no access easement there will that ensures that the access stops there. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to start the Brazilian rice.
Alrighty, John, I'm going to unmute you, and then next on deck is Steve Hall. John, would you like your camera on?
That would be fine.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Evening, everyone. My name is John Tillman, and I live on Rocky Highlands Drive. I've got maybe 3 or 4 questions. They're short questions. So if Paul could bear with me, I'll just go through the questions and then make a comment, and he can answer the questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. Number 1, the height requirement. I'm interested in knowing, is the height requirement for all 7 lots going to be 18 feet? Or is it just the lots 5, 6, and 7? And if it's not just the lots 5, 6, and 7, what are the height requirements on lots 1 through 4? Second question, timing. Could you give us some information as to your expectations on timing for this project? Question number 3, will this street name be called an extension of Rocky Highlands? So it just be Rocky Highlands will intersect and then go through Tortolito Mountain Circle. My fourth question is really a comment more than a question. There is a house being built, almost finished now, on the northwest corner of Rocky Highlands and Tortolito Mountain Circle. And that home, being on the corner, has had trucks parked on both Tortolito Mountain Circle and on Rocky Mountain Highland for well over a year, probably a year and a half. The 8 or so of us individuals that live on Rocky Highlands Drive and or Rocky Range that come out to Rocky Highlands and intersect Tortolito Mountain Circle have been impacted by that significantly from a visibility standpoint, from traffic coming from further up Tortolito Mountain Circle, coming down towards the clubhouse. It's a very dangerous situation. So my question would be, or my comment would be, I would hope that Oro Valley would require that no construction trucks or employees or anything would be able to park on Tortolito Mountain Circle. I would hope that all of construction equipment would have to be moved off onto the properties and off of Tortolito Mountain Circle, because someone mentioned, maybe it was John Hutchins mentioned, this will be a big project. And there'll be a lot of employees, a lot of activity going on. And to park trucks even on one side of Tortolito Mountain Circle is a safety hazard, significant safety hazard. And it's also a visibility problem for those of us that live up, these 8 homes that live up on Rocky Highlands, Rocky Range. When we try to come out, we have to look both ways and turn left to go to the clubhouse. It's dangerous. So those are my comments and questions. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, John. So the first one was building heights. The existing zoning is 18 feet, and that would apply to the entire project.
Okay.
Timing, they would like to start building this road and selling lots so that the custom homes can go in as quickly as possible. So typically in Oro Valley, that process takes, could be 6-8 months to get through to final plat. Takes half that in Marana, but I'm only saying that for town staff's benefit. The street name, I would imagine it's Rocky Highlands Drive extended to the south. We haven't actually thought about that, but I think logically that would make sense. That would be the least confusing thing to do, I believe. So, unless there's some huge objection to that, I think that would be the way to go. And then as far as construction parking goes, certainly, I totally understand. I'm not sure why that one house is taking so long, but not parking on Tortolito Mountain Circle would certainly be, that would be totally fine for this project. I would imagine that construction traffic, vehicles and parking will be on site. I don't see any reason why it couldn't be accommodated on site.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Steve, I'll be unmuting you now. Let me know if you'd like your camera on. And next is Mark Elson on deck.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, would you like your camera on?
No, that's okay. I love that that glamour shot I have up. That's fine. My name is Steve Hall, and I'm on the Design Review Committee as part of the HOA here in Stone Canyon. I'd like to start with a comment and then a question. The comment that I have is I'd like to echo very strongly John Hutchins' comments with regard to the abuse of this land over the past year or so. My wife and I moved here about 5 years ago, and when we moved here initially, it looked more like a nursery in there. Right now, it does indeed look like a rock quarry. There are large piles of dirt. The dirt is completely raw. There is no, there's no or very little vegetation left at all in the northwest sector, the northwest piece of property that we're talking about. It concerns me as a member of the Design Review Committee, and I won't speak for the entirety of the committee, but I can certainly speak from my own position here. And that is that the developers of this land are starting off really sort of in a very bad position, in my view. There is a significant lack of trust, at least on my part, and I think other members as well have expressed this, because it's quite obvious and has been obvious for at least a year, if not much longer, that the use of that land is in violation of Oro Valley's requirements as well as Stone Canyon's HOA requirements. So I can tell you right off that, at least from my perspective, whatever is being proposed and whatever comes to the Design Review Committee for approval in terms of building on that land, I will be looking extremely carefully because of the violations that have happened in that property up till now. So that's just, as far as I'm concerned, the builders and the developers here are starting from less than zero. My question is, given the state of the land that is in the northwest sector there, where all of the construction and digging and sort of quarrying activity has happened, that land has essentially been, I'm not sure what the typical phrase is for it, but it looks to me like it's been simply bladed. There is very little vegetation. There's no rock outcroppings like there are normally up here. My question to the developer is, what are the plans to reestablish the desert-like conditions which will be required for each individual home that is being proposed here? Because right now it just looks like a rock quarry. So is there initial planning? Are you going to do any initial landscaping, or are you just going to wait until a custom builder comes along and then submits a landscaping proposal?
Yeah, sure. So that's a really good question. To your first point, as far as the last year, et cetera, I can't speak to that, but I hear you loud and clear, and I will certainly pass that along to them. That your comment about starting from less than zero, that's fair enough. In terms of restoring the property, I would imagine that they would move forward with developing the road, probably do some landscaping around the edges, but so as not to plant things or create rock outcrops in the way of where a custom home might want to go. I would imagine that the bulk of the lot would be revegetated and rebuilt along with the house, so that it all comes together at the end. That would be my expectation. Open to suggestions, but it would seem like it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to install a lot of stuff that you might just tear out when you build a house.
Is my mic still on? Sorry.
It is.
Yes.
I actually did have one additional question. Sorry. In answer, though, to your question as to what do we do before the actual custom home gets built, I mean, if you've established the building envelopes, which you indicated, at least in the southern portion that you have, I don't know whether you guys are going to try to get ahead of the ball and try to undo some of the damage that's been done. But regardless, it'll have to go through the committee for approval and landscaping. So be that as it may, there is a shed that exists sort of where these two properties touch one another at those lower corners there. It looks like it's an old maintenance shed, perhaps used by the golf course. Is the plan to remove that shed, to leave it, or what will happen to that shed and some of the other stuff that's laying around?
Yeah, that shed and the other golf course related stuff will all need to come out. You know, obviously before they start building homes or even selling the lots down there. So yeah, that'll have to be removed.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Steve. All right, Mark, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead and let me know if you'd like your camera on. Also, Mr. Spaeth, if you can unmute Mark, for some reason mine is not letting me. There we go. Mark, would you like your camera on?
That would be fine.
Okay. And next on deck is Kathy.
Okay, I'm the property owner for the property to the immediate west of this subdivision. So adjoining what's identified as lot 2. And so my first question is, has there been any thought given to the actual pad locations that might be considered on these lots? And in particular, we're interested in where the pad location might be on lot 2. I had sent a PowerPoint chart to Mr. Packer earlier today with some information about where we're intending to build our home and sort of the sight lines that we're concerned about trying to maintain to the best of our ability. And I will say that we're pleased to see this kind of development being contemplated for this property, as opposed to anything else that might have gone in there.
Sure, fair enough. So the pad locations, other than on the southern 10 acres there, where we're obviously committed to staying out of that compatible use zone, we haven't placed those. I mean, we're not really planning to place them. However, you know, because typically when a buyer comes in, they say, you know, I just love lot 2, and they stand out there and they say, this is where I'm envisioning my house, like I'm sure you've done on your property too. So, but that said, it would be good to know where you're planning, generally speaking, to put a house there, because somebody coming in on lot 2 would probably want to have that in mind when they're citing theirs as well. So
And Mr. Oland, with Mr. Elson's blessing, I can absolutely share what he shared with me so that you have access to that as well.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I'm hoping that this may be the beginning of some ongoing conversations between us. We probably have some common challenges.
I imagine that's the case.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Elson. Do you have any further comments or questions?
The other big question that we had was just the overall plan for connecting to utilities, both the when and the how, because we're going through the same process ourselves at the moment.
Mhm.
And collectively, we would like to try and minimize the impact on the community as a whole as we're trying to get connected to the utilities. But there definitely are some challenges here.
Yeah, so on this piece, there's actually already a sewer line running through it, which follows the easement. Oh, I can't point to this screen, but you know, the easement coming down. Yeah, thank you. Down to there. Yep, keep going, and then head east. Keep going, keep going. Nope, nope. Go back up to the cul-de-sac. Keep going east, and now there. See the diagonal? That's where the sewer line comes right now. So the lots that can get onto that sewer line, we're planning to connect there.
Okay.
Water will be brought down through this cul-de-sac, as will dry utilities. They'll be brought down from Toilet Mountain Circle. So everything underground, of course. That's the proximate alignment of how things are going to be pulled. So I guess you're probably thinking, would any utilities be pushed over or brought down close to our western edge? Yeah, and I can tell you at this point, I don't see the need for that just for these 7 lots. But as you said, let's have a conversation. I think that everybody would agree that minimizing disturbance, is in everybody's best interest. So let's have that conversation.
Okay, Mr. Packer does have all of my contact information, and if he would like to share it with you, that would be fine.
Okay, perfect. I'll be sure to do that. Thank you, Mr. Ellison. Do you have any remaining questions or comments?
I think that's enough for right now, and if there are more, then I may circle back.
All right, thank you very much. All righty, I will be unmuting Kathy now, and on deck is Cindy Crane. And as I unmute you, Kathy, if you'd like to let me know if you want your video on.
Hello, this is Terry of the Kathy.
Hello, Terry.
I'm Terry Ernest. I have a question, and I'd like more definition of what is meant by custom homes. We've had experiences where developers come in with 2 floor plans, flip the sides of one, change the stone on another, and call all 3 of them custom homes. Secondly, related to that, I'd like to know whether these homes are going to be built as specs, whether they're going to require the purchase prior to being built, whether they're going to have architects assigned instead of development companies. And kind of an unrelated question is, what are the plans to permit the use of what's now being used as storage and nursery on other parts of Stone Canyon property?
All right, thank you, Mr. Olin. Would you like to answer some of those questions?
Yes, sorry, I'm just taking notes real quick.
Absolutely.
Sure. So the question about custom homes. At this point, we haven't gotten into architecture at all, but I asked the owner specifically that question this afternoon, and he reiterated that these homes will be meeting the aesthetic principles of Stone Canyon. He'll be talking to the board to look for architectural approval. So I know that is a daunting task because there are some pretty strict standards in Stone Canyon that have led to the design of a lot of really beautiful homes. So they will be going through that route and having that discussion with the board to make sure that the architecture is fits well. So that's about the most specific answer I can give you at this point.
So you don't know whether these will be done by a development company with owners purchasing plans, or whether they will be individually designed by architects, and whether they will be built as specs?
I do not know the answer to those questions, but I'd be happy to ask, and we can circle back. But I don't know. But
and my last question related to what will replace the nursery in terms of its present use, and where would it be located?
Yeah, that's also a good question that I don't have an answer to. The the existing Stone Canyon maintenance facility up off of Rockhaven Place, that's where most of their vehicles are stored. I know they do have some material storage within that facility as well. So I don't know if they will be using that as a nursery or not. I mean, frankly, most of the nursery most of the need for a nursery is much less than it used to be. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that to be a huge need in the future. But again, I'm happy to ask that question. It's a good question.
All right. Thank you. Terry, do you have any remaining questions or comments?
No, I'm okay, thanks.
All righty, thank you. All righty, Cindy, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now. Please let me know if you would like your video on.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm good with the video off. Just a couple questions, Mr. Oland. Maybe going back to the Air Park situation. Would the developer consider putting in some type of fencing along the southern, I think it's southern borders of the property in order to just create that visual deterrent as a border definition? So that's one question. And then the other question I have, and this may also, Kyle, pertain to you, is when I did a really quick look at the zoning, it looked like it included agriculture. And I'd like to understand whether it does, and if it does, what does that mean, and what restrictions can be applied? You know, I don't think in general elsewhere in Stone Canyon it's as big a concern to me because they're smaller properties, but because these were the larger 3 acre plus type of properties with an agricultural zone. I just want to make sure we're not going to be having different types of agricultural development occurring on the properties.
Okay. Want me to go first, Ms. Packer?
Sure.
Sure, thanks. So in terms of the fencing, we had not envisioned putting a parcel line fence. That sort of runs against the grain of how Stone Canyon looks. I mean, typically, as you know, Stone Canyon, you'll have a very defined building envelope with a backyard, you know, a walled-in area in the back with perhaps some view fencing there. But to put fencing on the property lines is not something that I think we'd be proposing. It just doesn't seem like it would fit too well. That said, I understand the concern about making sure that access is not able to be gained from areas outside of Stone Canyon that aren't complying with all of Stone Canyon's you know, rules and regs and everything. So there is that existing easement. It does extend down, I think, another 10 acre and another 5 acre piece south of this one. So that's really where the you know, where the potential is for people to come in and access that. But you know, we'd be happy to talk to those owners about securing that some more. I mean, that's an existing easement, so I guess I'm curious if that's a current problem that's being experienced, or if it's more just a potential that you're envisioning, if I might ask.
Yeah, Mr. Olin, absolutely. So, and don't get me wrong, I may be mistaken. I'm one of the newer residents in here, but I think along Tortolita Mountain for maybe lots 1 and 2, but I'm not for certain. There was an existing like 2-rail metal fencing that went through there before those properties were annexed in. And, you know, so I was just simply envisioning why could that not be put down on the southern borders of the properties to just provide that visual deterrent of the start and stop of Stone Canyon properties.
Sure. So you're is it primarily vehicular concern, or is it really just having a demarcation on the earth between in Stone Canyon, out of Stone Canyon, acreage by acreage, and it's not so much an access concern, or is it both? Or
to me, it's a deterrent for people that are out hiking around and just, and they just wander in, and then next thing you know, they're going down the streets and they're walking around people's properties. Whereas if there's a fence, there's a deterrent there, even if it's just a 2-rail fence, such as what exists along there prior to those properties being annexed in. Because, the reality is, yes, we know there are other properties that no matter where, how we move the border of Stone Canyon, it's going to border other properties, but that deterrent from hikers and things of that nature, 4-wheelers, those things, I think a very simple 2-rail fence like exists today is a really good deterrent.
Okay. Yeah, okay. That really helps me understand, and I don't disagree. I can picture that fence along the southern edge there of Tornado Mountain Circle.
Yep.
And you're right. It does kind of say, hey, this is, it's one thing on one side and one thing on the other. So I personally think that's a good selling point also. So I'll bring that up to the owners and see what I can do to get something along that edge. Primarily, you're thinking along the southern edge. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking the southern edges. So no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. If I could mention one more thing too is, if you look at that existing easement on the left side of the screen there that comes straight down and actually is adjacent to a lot of the other properties there. We thought that by pulling the street, curving it in the way we've shown it, pulling it into the more central location of that northern 15 acres there, we thought one of the benefits there was that it provided some separation, at least from an access standpoint. So there's no longer, dirt road access right along that edge. It's, there's going to be a house there, and then in the street on the other side. So that provides some visual separation. But I can certainly appreciate your comments about a simple fence would fit well.
Appreciate that. And then on the agricultural, is that yours, Kyle?
I can speak briefly to that. What I will say is while permitted uses do include some agricultural, currently with R1 144 zoning, both farms and ranches and marketing of products raised on the premises fall under the category of permitted R1-144 uses. However, these require 10-acre minimum parcel sizes. And so with these parcels ranging from 3.3 to 3.9 acres, that's evidently not the owners or the applicants' goal with this proposal. They will be, as they've stated, using them and submitting the application as a residential site design as opposed to farms and ranch use.
Okay. And so would that also prohibit just a homeowner having, a couple cows, couple goats, some chickens, or does that fall into the 10-acre restriction?
That would typically fall under the 10-acre restriction.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any further questions, Ms. Crane?
I think the only additional question I have is, and Mr. Oland, I think I heard this from you, but I just wanted to confirm that these parcels will not just follow the architectural guidelines and everything of Stone Canyon, but they will also have the same CC&Rs as the other Stone Canyon properties. Is that correct?
So I'm going to go a little bit outside of my bailiwick here. I believe the correct answer is that the Stone Canyon Golf owned properties throughout Stone Canyon have a separate arrangement with the association in terms of which bits and pieces of the CCNRs apply and which don't. So I think there's a separate agreement there that the owners, the Stone Canyon Golf owners, for this project will be approaching the board to to discuss how to firm those up on this property specifically, knowing that the intent, of course, is to be a piece of Stone Canyon that fits, that is an asset to Stone Canyon, that looks like it's belongs within Stone Canyon, and achieves same level of quality. So that's kind of a roundabout answer, but I don't believe that these parcels are subject to the CCNRs as many other properties in Stone Canyon are. So it's the beginning of a conversation that the owners will be having with the board very shortly.
Okay, well, certainly emphasizes the importance of the board's role in the community's engagement, because I do think that is what holds the standards for the community together.
Totally agree.
With that, Mr. Packer, I think I'm done.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Crane. Next, I will ask Mark to unmute again.
Okay, going back to particularly the question about fences, but in general, I wanted to drop the idea with Mr. Oland, and he can take it back to his principles, that I am really trying to hold the line that none of the Phase 9 property owners should be held to any more onerous terms than any of the other Phase 9 property owners. And so if there's a requirement that gets levied on one that can set a precedent for all the others, Phase 9 property owners. And so I would like to suggest that there needs to be some sensitivity to that concern.
I think I understand what you're saying.
And so again, if you'd like to talk separately, we can.
Yep, sounds like we need to. Thank you.
Perfect. Then I will go ahead and lower your hand, Mr. Elson, and unmute Christian. Again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name.
No worries. My question was, regarding the, Phase 9. So there have been lots already sold on that Phase 9. And, what's the deal with the community? If they're going to participate on Stone Canyon, why would they be allowed to have different rules and regulations?
So sure, yeah. So again, this goes back to when the ownership of the golf course was transferred. There was an agreement between that group and the prior developers, the prior declarant, that basically laid the groundwork for future development. And it allowed for some adjustments to the standard requirements. I don't have all the details of that, but I know they have a separate agreement, and these parcels are part of that agreement. So, but that said, I believe that when individual homes get built, they will certainly be subject to all the normal rules. Again, we'll have to. The owner will be bringing the architecture to the board. The street that's going to get built will match exactly what's built in Stone Canyon. So this when all is said and done, the idea is that this will look just like any other part of Stone Canyon, except that the lots will be larger.
Does that answer your question, comment? Oh, apologies. You seem to be muted again.
Okay. Well, my question was that, being a part of Stone Canyon, since they have to make improvements, sewer lines and roads, and then the association picks up the cost of maintaining, what other costs are going to be incurred by the association, with this project?
Sure. So the, as I mentioned, the owners in here will either be golf or sports members of the association. So they'll be paying those dues. And, of course, the cost of all of these improvements will be borne by the developer. So I think the answer is that once it's all built, these lots will be very much like any other lots in Stone Canyon from a participation standpoint. I believe that's correct.
And I'll go ahead and add that there clearly is more work to be done on the HOA portion of this project, and that is outside of the town's purview or the town's scope of impact here. So that'll require further meetings with the HOA board itself and discussion at that level.
For sure. And the owner told me this afternoon that he'll be reaching out to the board very soon to discuss all of this stuff. So that this next phase can really just kind of plug and play right in.
Perfect. Does that answer everything for you?
Yeah, I think that leaves a lot of open questions for the, board of, Stone Canyon. So I think that's where we are. And the city is outside that scope. That would be between the board and the homeowner or the landowners, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand. And at this point, I'd like to thank everyone for joining tonight's fully interactive Zoom neighborhood meeting. Following tonight, town staff expect a formal submittal from the applicant. And after that formal submittal and staff review for code conformance, the application is expected to move to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Clearly, once again, there's more work to be done at the HOA level. And so we highly encourage you to get in contact with the Stone Canyon HOA board to address those concerns as they've come up tonight. And if you'd like to know more and stay abreast of what's going on with the zoning violation, please contact me at kpacker@orovalleyaz.gov in order to be added to a list for staying abreast of all the information regarding that ongoing investigation. And once again, if you weren't notified about this project and you found your way here another way, and you would like to be notified in regards to the residential site plan application in the future, please send us a request with your name and address to kpacker@orovalleyaz.gov. And there will be additional opportunities for public input in both planning and zoning commission meetings, as well as town council meetings. So notice will be sent out in advance of all public meetings. Once again, please help us spread the word about this proposal and upcoming public participation opportunities. Property owners near the site have been directly notified by mail and will continue to be so. And furthermore, the site has been posted with yellow signs. As of today, we do not have a formal submittal from the property owner, but we anticipate one from Mr. Oland in the coming weeks. And lastly, please, if you have any remaining questions and comments, as I've stated before, please send them to kpacker@orovalleyaz.gov and go to ovprojects.com to visit the project webpage, where we'll continue to add new information as it becomes available. If you did not receive a yellow postcard for this meeting and wish to be notified in the future, please email me and we'll be more than happy to put you on our notice list. Thank you very much for your time tonight and have a wonderful evening.